this for just a moment while we get this shared across our platforms. Again, for those just joining the stream, bear with us for just a moment. We're getting our live stream shared across our pages and platforms. And we will get things started here momentarily. Okay, getting things almost set. Share this on Twitter. All right, I think we are all set. All right, so hey everyone, it's Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here. Meteorologist Andrew DiPaolo is also with me this afternoon, and here at 2:20 p.m. we have a severe thunderstorm warning that was issued just a handful of minutes ago for western Mahoning County. It extends off to the west to catch a lot of Stark County and southern Portage County as well. This includes Canton and New Franklin, Minerva, Alliance, and over towards Beloit, Sebring, Salem, and over towards Ellsworth. It does not include Greater Youngstown. It does not include Boardman or Poland. But parts of the Canfield area and certainly heading out towards Ellsworth and Berlin, you are now under a severe thunderstorm warning until 3 p.m. This line of storms has been pulsing up and down over the last few hours. Occasionally there have been warnings on it. Wind is our big threat this afternoon. There's not a lot of hail with these storms. The tornado threat is almost zero as well. There's not quite enough wind shear in the atmosphere to produce rotation. It's all about downbursts and perhaps straight line winds. And we have, of course, a very hot and humid air mass in place, and so the atmosphere is very, very unstable this afternoon. So again, just for those just tuning in, we have our severe thunderstorm warning that runs until 3 p.m. For southwestern Mahoning County. It actually looks like they just updated that, didn't they, Andrew?
Yeah, they just ended up canceling the portion of that warning for southern Portage County, so it's weakened enough for them to go ahead and let that expire.
Yeah, so just a handful of minutes after they initially put out this warning, that it did include Ellsworth and Berlin and kind of the 224 corridor in western Mahoning, they've trimmed it back already to just catch the southwestern corner of Mahoning County and back towards Stark County, and they took out Portage County. So anyway, this is a pretty mean-looking line of storms. It has frequent lightning and thunder with it. It has a gust of wind coming through Louisville right now in North Canton and over towards the Route 30 corridor closer to Minerva. Of course, in Youngstown, we are concerned about the big concert tomorrow evening, Y Live, in downtown Youngstown. They're setting up the stage. I just got off the phone briefing the work crews over there with regards to the threat for lightning and wind this afternoon into this evening. It looks like this initial band that has the warning on it is probably going to slip to the south of downtown Youngstown, be more aimed towards Route 62 and down towards Salem, maybe Columbiana, maybe eventually Lisbon, Hanoverton, places like that, and probably will be a general miss for downtown Youngstown. And if you're watching us from up to the north, say the I-80 corridor north, this initial round is probably going to miss us to the south as well. Let's do a loop on this. This is the only severe threat we have in the near term. This band that's approaching from the west right now. The big question for a lot of people is, what about the threat for late this afternoon into this evening? That possibility is still up in the air. There's some uncertainty, and the reason for that is, as this band pushes through, it may stabilize the atmosphere in many places. It could also touch off some outflow boundaries out ahead of it. In other words, some rain-cooled air rushing out from these storms could act as little mini cold fronts that spark new activity seemingly out of nowhere. That will be a possibility. it's possible that as this rolls through, it doesn't touch off any new stuff, and beyond that, maybe not much happens for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So I know that isn't a great answer if you have some outdoor plans late this afternoon into this evening, but it's the best we can do kind of right now. We have to see how this behaves in the near term. That will probably go a long way towards determining what happens then late in the afternoon and into the evening for today. In addition to the warning that was just issued, a handful of minutes after that, the Storm Prediction Center did issue a broad severe thunderstorm watch for all the counties in yellow. It includes our entire television viewing area, and that watch runs until, what did we say, 8 o'clock?
8 p.m. Yep.
8 o'clock for the watch, and I would expect this to be discontinued before 8 if it looks like new activity is going to have a hard time firing late this afternoon into early this evening. All that's still on the table, though. We're just going to have to pay very close attention to how things progress over the next couple of hours. So let's give you some clock times on when you can expect this band. This is moving east at about 45 miles per hour. So under that premise, again, it probably is going to miss downtown Youngstown. So that puts it over towards Alliance here in about 5 or 7 minutes. Into the Salem area at about 10 till 3, and close to the top of the hour then over towards Columbiana, Latonia, places like that. Then crossing the state line, crossing from East Palestine and Unity over towards Beaver as we go towards 305 or so, 310 maybe. And perhaps this will impact southeastern Columbiana County, including the East Liverpool area, right around 310 to 315. So that's a general, guide as to what we expect timing-wise based on the current speed at about 45 miles per hour. The threat this afternoon is pretty much all about the wind. We don't have much of a tornado threat. We don't have much of a hail threat as well. The atmosphere is super warm, way high up into the atmosphere. So hailstones are going to largely melt on their way down. So that's not a big concern. Certainly it's not a concern as far as damaging or large hail. No one's probably going to get their siding dented or their car windshield dented by hail this afternoon. But wind could be an issue with some of this activity as it comes out off to the east. So some of the radar data would suggest that we might have some downbursty winds right now. In other words, some pockets of strong wind, maybe over towards Louisville, east of Canton now, in some of these red colors. We can sample some of this. Nothing really breaks the bank as far as what the radar is picking up on right now, but it's possible that we're seeing some pretty strong gusts of wind along the leading edge of this cluster of showers and thunderstorms. As you can see behind it, we have some occasional lightning and a little bit of rain, but there's nothing severe behind it. And then behind that, it's turning hot again after some morning storms. It's cleared out, and I'll bring up the temperatures real quickly here. I mean, it is hot out there, and temperatures have recovered in western Ohio in the wake of the storms they had earlier on, back into the 80s. Now, Columbus just had a storm. They're back in the 70s. But as you can see, Cincinnati has recovered to the 80s. It's in the 80s in Detroit. At the Youngstown Warren Airport, we got to 88 here at the top of the hour. We will see if that's about as hot as it gets today, because these storms that roll through could, even though they largely miss the airport, they could bring some rain-cooled air into the airport area. And our 94 forecast this afternoon might have been too ambitious. It's hot, no doubt, but 94 might be a little out of reach.
And I want to chime in here for a second. The National Weather Service in Pittsburgh just put out a message, speaking of the heat, Eric, that it basically said after those showers and thunderstorms rolled through south of our viewing area, Tuscarawas County, let me name, Coshocton, Muskingum, Guernsey, southern Ohio, southeastern Ohio, basically cloud cover has eliminated that excessive heat threat. So they just actually lifted that heat advisory for areas in their county warning area in southern and southeastern Ohio. So
yeah, you can see this hole right here. This is where they just took a few counties out of that heat advisory because it's no longer meeting that threshold of a heat index near 100. Where we have the blinking area, that's because they just updated that advisory. So they're keeping the advisory for greater Pittsburgh and a lot of their West Virginia counties and whatnot. But yeah, a little cooler with these storms pushing through. And while it's still very humid in those places, the temperatures have dropped. And so no one in some of those areas are going to see a heat index close to 100 this afternoon. Speaking of the heat index, real quickly before we get back to the storms, at the airport, 98 is where we've crescendoed this afternoon as far as the heat index. No doubt some localized areas, some backyards, are experiencing heat index values warmer than that. We actually had some clouds for a time this morning. I was out on the golf course at an outing where WFMJ was a sponsor this morning. And for a while, it wasn't that bad out because the clouds kind of kept a lid on temperatures. Once the clouds broke, it instantaneously became really hot. But the clouds made temperatures get off to a little bit of a slower start. And now these thunderstorms could also hamper the progress of those temperatures.
We're already seeing some of that rain-cooled air in our far western viewing area. I mean, retreating back to the low to mid-80s from Berlin Center off to the west, Alliance at 81, Rootstown at 84, Minerva kind of in that same boat, Handoverton at 84. Anywhere east of that, though, still approaching the upper 80s. Not too many spots hitting the 90-degree mark, at least on our weather station network here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a heck of a way to run a heat wave. We failed to get to 90 on Wednesday. We only got to the mid-80s yesterday, and we might not even see 90 today officially at the airport. Our forecast was for an official heat wave earlier this week, which would be 3 straight days in the 90s. We may make it 0 days in the 90s, depending on what the temperature does here over the next hour or so. Again, this warned cluster of storms is likely to miss the Youngstown-Warren Airport, but some clouds and maybe some rain-cooled air will try to filter in and maybe put a lid on the temperatures a little bit. Either way, though, it's hot, it's humid. What's a few degrees amongst friends? But meteorologists and weather nerds like us, we take accuracy seriously. Say that 3 times fast. And so if our temperature forecast is off by 5 degrees, that's not going to make us happy. But for most people, 89 maybe a little bit better than 94 this afternoon. But most importantly, of course, will your outdoor plans be hampered by thunderstorms? Just to recap for those who are just joining us on the stream, it's 2:30. We have a severe thunderstorm warning that just grazes the southwestern part of Mahoning County. It includes parts of Stark County, and we'll see if the National Weather Service office in Pittsburgh issues a new warning for parts of Columbiana County as this comes off to the east. This cluster of storms is the only severe weather threat we have in the near term. It's the only thing on the playing field right now. What happens beyond this is a tough call because this activity could roll through, stabilize the atmosphere enough that maybe not much happens for the rest of the day, and our severe weather threat will just kind of fade away. It's also possible, given how hot and humid it is, that some of this rain-cooled air will rush out of this cluster of storms, act like little mini cold fronts, and spark new thunderstorms. And that's why a severe thunderstorm watch was just issued, because even though this is the only kind of game in town right now, we may not be out of the woods for a while, as long as the hot, humid air mass could be encountered by some cooler air rushing out from these storms. So that's on the table. If you have outdoor plans late this afternoon into this evening, just know that right now we're going to at least have the chance of an impactful storm through early this evening, probably through 6 or 7 or so. Beyond that, we're probably okay for the rest of the evening. But from now through 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock or so, there may be times that the radar doesn't show much, but there may be times that we have a beefy thunderstorm around as well. Again, wind is our primary concern this afternoon. This is not a tornado threat, really. It's not much of a hail threat either because of how hot the air mass is from the ground up several thousand feet. So hailstones that are trying to form way above our heads are going to primarily melt on their way down. Maybe there's some pea-sized hail if any storm gets particularly ambitious, but it wouldn't be a big deal in terms of hail. It's much more of just a wind threat. And right now, the wind speeds being sampled by the radar are nothing that really breaks the bank. This is a borderline severe storm, probably, with some 40 to 50, maybe 55 mile per hour gusts, maybe. I'll switch over to the Pittsburgh radar source here and sample this again. And yeah, we're just not sampling anything really super robust right now, but as oftentimes happens at this time of the year with storms, they can pulse up and down, and this particular cluster, has been pulsing up and down for the last several hours. We've had a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings with this, going all the way back towards I-71 around the Mansfield area a few hours ago, or a couple of hours ago, and then for a while we didn't have any warnings on it. Now we have one single warning. We have some big beefy storms in southeast Ohio this afternoon. It's also going to be interesting to see if the kind of widespread nature of this activity to our south cuts off a little bit some of the moisture supply to any storms that try to get going to the north. Sometimes that'll happen where the feed of really humid air gets cut off by activity like this. And so that may be a limiting factor as well towards the coverage of our storms or potential storms late this afternoon, early this evening as well. Thought I heard NWS chat go off there, but I don't see any new messages.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay. We for those, go ahead, Andrew.
No,
Okay.
I don't see anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see anything.
The National Weather Service offices are part, and television meteorologists, emergency managers, etc., are all part of an internal kind of chat room, if you will, in which we can see what products are being issued instantaneously. We can chat with the meteorologists at the National Weather Service and with each other and whatnot. And so we keep an eye on that in severe weather coverage to see what's going on. And sometimes you'll hear little noises in the background. That tends to be what the noises are. Is that chat room? If someone posts something or a product is issued, we get that notification on one of our side computers, and so that may be what you hear sometimes. The severe thunderstorm, or the really strong thunderstorm right now, is still not quite in our viewing area. It's still in Stark County. Around Louisville, it's still raining hard. That's another threat this afternoon that we may have to talk about, the threat for a little too much rain at one time. And that's why the National Weather Service actually, earlier on, did hoist a flood watch that the Cleveland Weather Service office did, that included just about all other counties. So it includes in our area Mahoning and Trumbull. It does not include in our area the counties that the Pittsburgh Weather Service office covers, Columbiana, Mercer, and Lawrence. But because of the super humid air mass, and maybe there are times that these storms might want to train over the same areas, that increases the flood risk, and so a flood watch was issued earlier on. So to recap what we have going on, flood watch in effect, Mahoning and Trumbull, severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 8 p.m. for our entire television viewing area, and then we have one single severe thunderstorm warning for a slim part of southwestern Mahoning County. Looks like the Pittsburgh National Weather Service office is not, in the near term, going to issue a new warning for Columbiana. They issued a statement saying, hey, there's a strong thunderstorm coming, but not severe enough to issue a warning for. So basically, they're saying, hey, strong thunderstorm coming, Columbiana County, but probably sub-severe. And there's a look at the latest loop. Yeah, this is going to be interesting, Andrew. Our severe weather coverage day could be pretty brief.
Yeah.
Or we could have some new activity trying to pop up in this steamy air mass. Both things are kind of on the table right now. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like, earlier this morning, when I got in around 9, 10 o'clock this morning, stuff was firing off into western Ohio. Since then, some spots have tried to recover temperature-wise. A lot of spots in central Ohio are just in the mid-70s right now still. But the only activity firing off to the west and northwest of this are these little sub-severe cells that are gaining a little bit of strength, but they're kind of moving, I'll say, like multi-directionally. You can't really tell where they're moving. It appears at the northeast at the moment, so moving away from Ohio over towards portions of southern Canada and Ontario. But that's really it. I mean, there's nothing kind of in that direct line off to the west that would be firing up as a result of any outflow.
Yeah, so everything kind of on the table. The way we originally envisioned today going was that it would be pretty quiet until late afternoon, early evening. These storms that originally bowed through western Ohio and the remnants are now pushing into our area, this stuff was supposed to die off a few hours ago if you believe some of the weather modeling. The weather modeling is not done particularly well in our area with some of our recent events, and I would include today in that. We were not expecting storms to be around at this time of the day necessarily. It was more late afternoon, early evening. So we have to take all the modeling kind of with a grain of salt. And that's part of our job as meteorologists, is not to take modeling verbatim. Models are a tool for us, and we have a lot of weather models that we look at to formulate a forecast, but they are just tools. And just like, a home builder needs to know how to use his hammer, the hammer is useless if you don't know how to use it. A meteorologist needs to know how to use the models wisely, or else they're also fairly useless. But, the bottom line is we do rely on them as one of the tools in our tool belt, and it's been a tool that maybe hasn't been tremendously useful to us of late. It's kind of led us astray a couple of times in terms of timing and coverage. of thunderstorms. All right, so our warning runs for another 20 minutes until 3 p.m. It includes southwestern Mahoning County. Even in areas that aren't going to be in a warning, big mean thunderstorm is likely to roll through, and we'll do another track here to show you some clock times. Again, this is mostly, it looks like, going to miss downtown Youngstown and mostly be south of 224. So coming towards the top of the hour in Salem, a few minutes before that in Sebring, Beloit area, down towards Guilford Lake, Lisbon, Hanoverton. Again, a little bit closer to 250 to 3 o'clock or so, 3:05. Over towards Columbiana, at about 3:10, Latonia a few minutes before that. Wellsville, East Liverpool, Calcutta, West Point, places like that. This is probably a little bit more towards 3:15 to 3:30. And then crossing the state line and perhaps impacting parts of Lawrence County and Beaver County, PA, as we head towards 3:30 or so. Just to give you a general sense as to what we got going on. If you're watching us from our northern viewing area, this is going to be the severe part of this, or the really strong part of this, is going to be a miss for you in Trumbull County. It's going to be a miss for you in Mercer County as well. That's not to say that you're in the clear for the rest of the day. As we've been talking about, if you've been watching the stream for a while, everything's kind of touch and go right now. This initial band here may stabilize the atmosphere. It may also lead to new activity popping up due to the rain-cooled air rushing out of these storms and causing new uplift in the atmosphere and new storms to form. Both things are about equally possible, I would say, at this point. No, it's not a great answer if you wanted to get in the pool this afternoon, if you have outdoor plans, but it's one of those days in the summertime that we can't do a whole lot better than that. It's just the name of the game sometimes in the summer. New severe thunderstorm warning, but southeast Ohio. A lot of warnings down in southeast Ohio. These storms have their act together a little bit more down here. Parkersburg, Marietta, Athens, up to Cambridge as well.
Yeah, and to kind of echo your thought, Eric, the National Weather Service in Pittsburgh issued what's known as a hazardous weather outlook. Pretty common. Anytime you have the possibility of some stronger thunderstorms, especially this time of the year. And it was basically saying, hey, we can't rule out a stronger thunderstorm.
Yep.
In short, we're not completely out of the woods yet. Stronger thunderstorm is definitely possible, but it'll be just what fires up off to the west is what's going to happen the rest of the day.
Yep.
But it could easily have stabilized the entire atmosphere, and we won't see much.
I'm just going to look real quickly at the observation at the Canton-Akron Airport. Oops. Let's see if they recorded a decent wind gust there. Gusted to 41 at 209 and is under 10 miles per hour right now. So when this came through southern Summit County, northern Stark County, which is where the CAK airport is, they recorded a wind gust of 40 miles per hour. So that's sub-severe. That's strong. That's going to be noticeable, of course. But severe thunderstorms, as you may know, have a technical definition. 58 mile per hour winds, hail of 1 inch in diameter or larger, and or a tornado. That's what defines a severe thunderstorm. And so that criteria was not met back when this rolled through the Canton area, especially North Canton, between Akron and Canton, a little while ago. The wind data, as this just begins to enter western Columbiana County, it's not particularly impressive off the Pittsburgh radar source. We're sampling the storm up a few thousand feet here, but we are not picking up on anything more than probably 40 to 45 right now. So if this were to continue for another 17 minutes, I would not expect a new warning to be issued beyond this for this particular cluster of storms. Quick look outside on our camera. Oh, we got a bee, Niles. We were joking yesterday. It's going to be that time of the year where we start to get camera bees. These cameras tend to be perched on billboards and things like that, and bees love nesting on big hanging objects like that, especially where there's wood. So this is not Columbiana, of course, despite the banner. This is up in Niles, across from Eastwood Mall. Camera 1 is going to be Boardman, right?
Camera 1 will be Boardman, yes.
And we're looking off to the west here, towards Canfield, 224 and Market Street, and the sky's starting to darken. Certainly you can see look how stinking humid it is. 76 degree dew point, that is gross. the temperature in the upper 80s. So yeah, it is definitely no fun outside, and we'll take a look at some local dew points here. Now, some of these are personal weather stations that tend to run a little high when it comes to dew points. Personal weather stations tend not to be sighted in some cases really well. They don't get much wind, and without the wind mixing the air up a little bit, dew points tend to run a little bit high on some of these, so I don't like showing this a whole lot, but you can see either way, wind or no wind, dew points are way up there this afternoon. It's no fun to be outside, especially in areas that still have sunshine. We advertised today as the hottest day of the year. This mid-afternoon cluster of storms in parts of our area might kind of put the brakes on the upward temperature rise this afternoon. You can see
it is going to be a nail biter to get to 90.
Yeah.
I mean, it might get to 90 if you kind of look and you see those gray contours. I mean, that's 89, 90 degrees, and there are some shades of gray up towards between Cortland and Warren into Vienna and where the airport is. It'll be a nail biter to get to 90.
Yeah, and we had 94 in the forecast, and it looks like the unanticipated arrival of some mid-afternoon storms in parts of our area might prevent the temperature from getting that high.
Hourly obs or 10-minute obs rather, 88 still. So
yeah. So we have about 15 minutes to go on the warning that in our viewing area, in our television market, this is only in effect for extreme southwestern Mahoning County. This includes the Beloit area. Columbiana County, you are not in a warning. The Weather Service has elected not to issue a warning for Columbiana County at this point. And looking at the wind data, I would say that this storm is mostly sub-severe as it's entering western Columbiana County. Strong, no doubt. Some gusty winds, some frequent lightning, some heavy rain. The rainfall rates around Minerva right now are very impressive. I mean, it is pouring like crazy. A few inches an hour on average, probably. That's just the per hour rate. It's not going to rain that hard for an hour. But it is really coming down, for sure. Might even be a little small hail around Minerva right now as well. Let's do a quick slice here. I mentioned earlier, hail is not a real big concern this afternoon. I don't think it's a real big concern. I don't think large hailstones that are going to damage things are a big concern. But yeah, this is getting pretty tall. Now, the air is really warm from the ground up several thousand feet today. So hailstones are going to largely melt as they try to come down to the surface. But occasionally, maybe there's a little bit of hail. And there may be some of that right now around Minerva. The hail algorithm on our radar source here is not picking up on a whole lot, but right around Route 30 coming out of Minerva and towards Hanoverton, yeah, there could be a little bit of hail.
One of the forecasters for the National Weather Service basically saying we should stay storm free here in the next few hours. There might be some activity up towards the lake shore, but maybe a lake breeze boundary layer trying to get involved. But other than that, everything kind of stays quiet until that activity that might happen late tonight into the overnight.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to see a cancellation of the severe thunderstorm warning for Stark and Mahoning. So they have pulled the plug already on that warning that was in effect for southwestern Mahoning and Stark County. We're going to stick with you on the stream here for a few minutes and make sure that Columbiana County is not put under a warning. You know, this is a pretty rowdy storm around Minerva right now. Some gusty winds, some really heavy rain, and perhaps some small hail as well. The Weather Service forecaster mentions the reason the watch is up is because we're going to keep an eye on the stuff up in Michigan right now, and maybe a lake breeze tries to spark some new things. But it looks more and more like once we get through the band that is pushing across the area, especially our southern viewing area, not a lot will happen for a little while. Unless, again, we get some outflow boundaries sparking new activity just kind of out of the blue, it's possible some rain-cooled air comes out of this, encounters temperatures in the upper 80s with dew points in the 70s, and you get a thunderstorm trying to blow up. We can't discount that possibility. But it's looking a little more likely that this will be the only thing we have to deal with for a while this afternoon, and maybe something spotty happens through early evening. But then, yeah, we probably have to wait till the overnight. A lot of the modeling is suggesting the overnight could pack or could feature some showers and some storms. I'm going to load up a model here and just kind of show you what it is advertising. So here's one of our short-range models. There's the activity this afternoon kind of fading away. Maybe there's something spotty early this evening, and then we wait until after probably 2 or 3 in the morning. Some of this activity out here at 2 or 3 in the morning might roll through in the wee hours of tonight and first thing tomorrow morning. If you're heading to Y Live tomorrow evening, at this point, we do think that by concert time, we should be in good shape. In fact, the humidity will come down. It should be a fine evening, really. But earlier in the day, before the cold front arrives, it's going to be possible that a spotty shower or storm does roll through parts of our area tomorrow morning, midday, early afternoon. I'll tell you, though, by about 4, 5, 6 o'clock from north to south, we should see the sky clearing, the dew points are coming down, and it should turn into a pretty beautiful evening and much more comfortable than the air mass that we have overhead right now. So we have about 20,000 people coming to Youngstown tomorrow evening. It'll be a great evening, it looks like, once we get through perhaps a little bit of a touch-and-go weather for a time overnight tonight and during parts of our Saturday. Just to real quickly show you what is coming our way, in case you haven't watched the forecasts of late or checked the forecast on the Storm Tracker 21 app. Still pretty soupy into the afternoon on Saturday, but by Sunday those dew points are down in the lower 60s, perhaps upper 50s. We'll spend a few days next week with dew points in the 50s during the day with sunshine and with an air mass that dry. Yeah, we're probably looking at some overnight temperatures that will be very nice. Good sleeping weather for a time early next week, as opposed to the really stuffy weather we had last night and that we'll have again tonight. So to recap here on the live stream, it's 2:50. We have a strong thunderstorm coming into Columbiana County right now around Route 30 and adjacent areas. This is impacting parts of Carroll County as well. Right now it appears this is a sub-severe line of storms that might have some small hail here and there, perhaps just east of Minerva right now, coming closer to Hanoverton. Any hail is probably pretty small and pretty insignificant. Of bigger concern maybe how much rain is falling. It's raining really hard. The wind component, there are some gusty winds, but it does not look particularly bad right now in terms of the threat for damaging winds or anything like that. Tyler Berry is on the storm pushing into Latonia. He just tagged me on Twitter saying the storm is gusting out. I'll retweet a picture from him of a shelf cloud along the leading edge of that. Thanks to Tyler for that. Tyler's been a good resource for us this week with a couple of severe weather threats. All right, so Andrew, I think we'll stop the live stream for now and start it back up as conditions warrant for the rest of the afternoon. But again, to recap, line of thunderstorms or a cluster of thunderstorms impacting areas mostly south of Route 224 here as we head towards the top of the hour. Gusty winds, some heavy rain, frequent lightning, largely sub-severe it looks like at this point, but certainly some gusty winds. Odds are increasing that once this clears our area, we'll be in pretty decent shape for much of the rest of the afternoon, perhaps all the way through this evening. It's possible that we have some pop-up stuff still out there as we head towards dinner time and early evening, but that remains to be seen at this point. I think we can probably sound the all clear completely, no doubt, by mid-evening for most people's outdoor plans. The next round of showers and storms will be late tonight when most of us are sleeping, but for those who may be interested in what's happening if you have outdoor plans for the rest of the daylight hours, once we get through what we're getting through right now, we may be in pretty good shape for a good chunk of the afternoon and into this evening, but it can't be a guarantee at this point, and we'll keep you up to date on social media, on the Storm Tracker 21 app, and on 21 News this evening at 5, 6, and 11. Hope you'll tune in then. If you're going to the concert tomorrow, have a great time, stay safe, and we'll bring you updates, of course, on any pre-concert storms on all those same venues on Saturday. In the meantime, we'll sign off for now. Have a great